This next student story is about one of my favorite URM students, just because we've watched him progress from the ground up since we started. This is about a guy named Robin Leijon from Sweden, and he's been a URM subscriber since 2015. And in 2015, we knew that he showed some talent. He was always listening to the podcasts, always coming to our one-on-one sessions or webinars. He was always asking questions, always taking part in the group. Anything that we threw out there, he devoured. And by the time we launched Nail the Mix, he won maybe 6 out of the first 8 or 9 of them. The guy just kept getting better and better and better and just worked his ass off until he started getting national acts and started doing this absolutely full time. He works as a producer, a mixer, a Kontakt instrument maker, editor, you name it, anything audio he does. He's even working with signed acts and bigger well-known producers like Bo Burchell. So I introduce you, Robin Leijon.
My name is Robin Leijon. I come from Gothenburg, Sweden. I'm a producer, mixing, mastering engineer. I do a lot of editing, but I don't only do like producing, mixing. I also do stuff like Kontakt instruments. I work a lot with drum samples and I do a lot of editing. I mostly do mixing and mastering with mostly national bands. It's not a lot of local bands. Bands starting to come to me. When my first label band came to me, it was from In Dying Arms from Tragic Hero Records. From that point, it kind of just went downhill or uphill. I don't know the correct phrase for that. After that, more and more. Now it sounds like I do a lot of label gigs, but it's not that much. But for me, it started to just come more and more. And then I thought like, okay, now it's really going to take like a big step up. That's when I kind of started to realize that I really could make a living out of this. Then I started to do also editing for other people, because when you have like dry periods, when you're not working with bands, you can have that underneath, and so you can still make a living out of music and work with music in some way, even if you don't work with bands themselves. My biggest challenge so far has been to market myself, to like get my name out there. So far it's only been mostly word of mouth, which is the best way. But since I haven't worked with like insane amount of bands, and a lot of those bands I worked with a lot of them has gone on hiatus or just disbanded. That's been a pretty tough part when you work with something for a long time and then they disband. They won't like promote the album, EP or single they released because they're not a band anymore. That's been the biggest challenge. But so far I've had the one band I've had most success with is a band called Athena from Norway. They are still a band, so they have such a clear vision of their music. They're really trying to strive forward and evolve in their music after every release. They listen to their listeners, see what they like and don't like, and they kind of want to evolve from that. So that's a band that is ambitious, and that's a band you want to focus on. They have improved my whole career, if I may say so, because I remember like I think it was in 2015, there's one thing that's always gonna be in the back of my head. It's a rant from Joel. It was because I asked why my drums didn't sound big in my mixes. He had me deconstruct my whole mix, and then when I told him I used samples that had all mics printed in them, so we had a snare with both overheads and rooms, and he was like, that's the reason you can't get big drums, because you're not using the room samples alone, because the room samples is what makes the drum kit sound huge. The direct mics and such, they're just there for impact. So I started to really work on my room mixes for my drums to make them sound bigger. And then I think I submitted for Mix Crit Monday. I think it was the first time. Then Eyal, your crit was that my mix had lacked in mid-range. a lot. They were very scooped, so I started to work on that to get my mid-range in a better place. It's all been like criticism that's evolved me through URM from you guys, Joel, Eyal and Joey, as well as the other people in the community. They help a lot too. There's a lot of people who's very honest in their criticism. Always you have to take things like that with a grain of salt, because you don't know what listening environment people have. But there will always be a few people that you know have a good ear and a good environment, so you can really trust them with stuff like that. And also the biggest part is the live mix events, when you can see other people, like how they approach different things, and then you can try them out in your mixes and see how they work. So like in the beginning I copied down the live mixes to my DAW and like apply all the same effects, and like to the extent that you could, because some live mixes had samples that you didn't get in your session, for example. But that way I could more easy check out what things did, like what certain EQ moves did to a snare track, for example, and just kind of look under the hood to see how things worked. And then you could like understand why this compressor worked like this here and why it doesn't work on your source, for example. That's been a huge improvement on my workflow. And since the Bo Burchell month, I've started to talk a lot with Bo. He challenged me with starting to mix without my master on, because even though he liked my mixes I did, he felt they were sometimes cloudy or not as defined. And then I started to work without mastering chain. Then I realized that I could find things much easier and pinpoint frequencies that was bad, and I could clear out my mixes even better, pinpoint things that's bad that you need to fix, and balances and such, like things like that. A lot of people, they want to rush things too fast, so they don't realize maybe their potential might be there, but they might not be there product-wise, might not be able to put out good of a product. I just recommend to take your time. If you have a day job, you could go down in hours and make sure that you can spend time on audio to improve your own touch, your own sound, and then let it come through time. When you feel like now my mixes are really good, band starts to come to me, then I can like quit my day job, I can start this professionally and just focus on audio. Or if you find not only one thing but many things that you can work on, like drum editing and everything like that, and you can get a good income from several like directions, then you can leap directly. It's all about getting strategical, find the best way to earn that income before jumping out in the air.